This evening, lightning streak strikes Hits and Jams television station. President proposes the provision of open space for vendors before relocating them. GPL receives funds to enhance management and loss reduction departments. President Granger gives his views on pregnancy policy in the workplace.
From Safetv headquarters in South Ramsgate Gardens, this is Safetv Headline News with Rihanna Ahmed.
Headline News is now being streamed live on our YouTube channel, as well as our website, safetvghana.com. Join us. A bit of thunderstorm occurring earlier today caused some amount of damage to Hits and Jams television station. But due to the quick response from the transmission operators, what could have been a disastrous fire was averted. Lightning struck the Hits and Jams radio and television station in Georgetown just after 10 a.m., causing a fire to ignite. Radio and television personality Felice Robertson was live in the studio at the time. She was still a bit traumatized while speaking with reporters.
It's almost like the lightning went through the whole building because all the smoke and so on that was inside, we weren't sure where this fire was all the time because the smoke continued to go on.
The fire, which erupted in the main control room, was as a result of lightning striking the station's broadcast tower. What could have been a disastrous fire was fortunately averted due to the swift action of operators and other staffers of the company.
Delon, the operator, was back there at the time. He was running to get water. I see that he came outside to get water, but then I remember we have a fire extinguisher. So I picked it up and I ran to him with the fire extinguisher, but I don't know how to operate that thing. So I gave it to him. I said, do something because I don't know what to do. And he grabbed it and he extinguished the fire. And so we tried to unplug stuff and come out.
There has been confirmation that while some damage was done to the equipment and the building, none of the staffers were injured.
So we had to plug out everything. We couldn't stay in there. We had to plug out everything and get the staff out, just make sure everybody's out.
Director of Hits and Jams, Kerwin Bullers, could not estimate the company's losses at the time. He was also unsure of when the station would be back on air.
Hopefully there's not much damage, and we'll try to assess it and see pretty much what is damaged and what can be replaced and so on. Hopefully it's not too much. We have some of our technicians coming over just now to assess and see what is being damaged and so on.
Over the past 2 to 3 years, freak storms and more specifically lightning strikes have caused damage to a number of other radio and television stations in the city, including Channel 2. President Granger said vending or municipal matters at City Market will not be micromanaged by his government, but he would advise City Hall to make locations available before vendors are removed. Mr. Granger made those comments at his recent public interest show. Andrew Weeks reports.
Since City Hall temporarily removed dozens of vendors from the Border Market area on Robb Street between Alexander and Border Streets on Wednesday, vendors picketed the Ministry of Communities, calling for the removal of the town clerk, Royston King.
We need justice! Royston King must go! We need justice! Royston King must go!
But on Thursday, President David Granger was asked to comment on the removal of the vendors at Border Market on the public interest show.
As far as the actual removal of vendors from one street to the other, I must admit that the government does not attempt to micromanage the city. I've had engagements with the city. As you know, quite recently, last week, we had an engagement with the private sector to deal with things like the container tax and the parking meters. And I would urge the City Council to deal with these issues in a humane manner, at the same time ensuring that before any move is made, any action is taken, there is an alternative.
The Granger also stated that a location must be selected which provide open spaces before vendors can be removed.
To build markets before we can move the vendors. We can't move the vendors into nowhere. We have to move them to particular places, and we must put in place the accommodation for vendors to be able to conduct their activity. I'm not saying that in every instance, it is a state responsibility. All over the country, you go to Leonora, you go to Maripo, you see people vending in the open. But we must provide tarmacs, we must provide designated areas where people can conduct their business. It's legitimate business, and it's a legitimate concern of the central government that those vendors be unable to do their work.
Meanwhile, Headline News spoke with Deborah Lewis, Public Relations Officer acting, via telephone for an update on the situation.
Yeah, the vendors are currently out there back, and we have reached an agreement with them.
What is the agreement that you guys reached?
The agreement is that they're going to keep the place clean, they're going to use the compactor, they will have marshals to police the place from among themselves, they will establish themselves into committees that could overlook. But they weren't removed deliberately, they were removed so that the place could be clean, and so that when they go back there, they will meet with council, come to agreement so that when they go back there, the place will be kept clean. They weren't removed totally from there.
Mr. Granger's position is clear to manage City Hall, but that he has advised the Mayor and City Council to put systems in place to deal with vending.
I did go to the City Council early this year, and I made it clear that it was the view of the government of Guyana that vending is a legitimate economic activity. I recommended that a site be found with a roof, so that the vendors could be given clean, sanitary, safe.
Andrew Weeks, Safetv 2, Headline News.
Thanks, Andrew. Efforts to begin to enhance GPL's loss reduction strategy and management through a IDB EU-funded project has been approved by Cabinet. Mondale Smith has the story.
$1 IDB EU-funded project that has been given Cabinet's no objection or approval. The Guyana Power and Light GPL is source and other enhancements present by year 2020.
This is what the 1.6, but as I alluded to earlier, with these projects coming on stream, we would be seeing
loss and one aspect of the loss reduction exercise which will have to take place. So there are technical losses, as well as there are losses due to human activity.
For Safetv Headline News, I'm Mondale Smith.
Thanks, Mondale. Coming up on Headline News after the break, Cabinet approves funds for the enhancement of the Leonora.
Let's get ready for Love and Sunshine Destination Wedding Conference and Expo, coming October 10 to 12 to Guyana, South America.
Luncheons, cocktails, parties, and formal gathering. For reservation, call 225-1730, 225-0038, and delivery 225-0195 or 225-0159. The new thriving Chinese restaurant, 32 Main Street, Georgetown.
Only at Kissoon's can you get the guaranteed offer of up to 50% discount on every item in their blowout factory surplus sale. 50% off for Guyana's 50th anniversary right through the year. Check it out at their spacious factory outlet at Reinfeldt Industrial Park, where parking is no problem. They're in the mood to celebrate at Kissoon's. Once you want it, Kissoon's will make sure you don't leave without it.
This is really hot. What's wrong with your AC?
It's not working.
Well, we wouldn't be able to continue this meeting anymore because this place is extremely hot.
Wait, please don't go.
Here's a company you can call to get your AC fixed. Action Cool.
Honey, what's dinner? I had a hard day.
I'm sorry you had a hard day, but guess what, babes? I didn't cook today because the stove is not working.
Having trouble at home or at the office? Then call the professionals at Action Cool. Our fully trained technical team have the skills and experience in repairs of all air-conditioned units, refrigerators, gas stoves, washing machines, and a whole lot more. For further information, visit us at 86 Hill and Princess Street, Mandela Avenue, Georgetown, or call us on telephone number 225-7867.
Cabinet has granted its approval for the award of a $74.4 million contract to Builders Hardware and Quality Timber Project Company for expansion and capacity building at the Leonora Diagnostic Center, and the center can be upgraded to a maternity care facility.
This project, the expansion of the Leonora Diagnostic Center, arose out of a concern which was expressed by His Excellency when he visited the maternity ward of the Georgetown Hospital. I believe it was on Boxing Day last year. His major concern at that time was that the condition under which pregnant women were treated in the manner in which they were making deliveries. And he expressed his concern about that matter and called upon the Minister of Health and myself to go around to find a proper place where some extension to a hospital can cater to maternity cases to deal with the conditions under which our women were required to give birth.
This upgrade will now see women being able to access the full range of maternity services, both pre-birth and post-delivery health care, at the facility, and is intended to ease the burden on the maternity ward at the Georgetown Public Hospital Corporation. Earlier this year, the President visited the Diamond and Leonora Diagnostic Centers, where he explored opportunities for providing more maternity centers for pregnant women to have more options for pre- and post-delivery care. Minister Harman iterated government's commitment to ensuring that quality health care, which is available to women at the public health care institutions, is greatly improved.
And the Leonora Diagnostic Center is one of the areas that had been identified that with the space and can, with some adjustment, be able to provide that facility so that the women who are coming from Bartica and the other places in regions 2, 3, 7, 8, and 9, that they don't have to come all the way to Georgetown, that there's a facility there at Leonora that will properly cater to their needs.
Those visits by the President, according to a Ministry of the Presidency statement, were designed to give him a first-hand look at some of the challenges faced by both healthcare providers and patients. In an invited comment at that time, the President had noted that the facility had noted the fact that Finding Mission provided the government with an idea of capacity for the expansion of maternity facilities to other locations. With this focus in mind, the government in 2015 had allocated $23.2 billion to the health sector to ensure that the delivery is much improved, with $133.1 million of the sum being spent on the upgrading of equipment for the Georgetown Public Hospital Corporation in an effort to increase the capacity of the maternity unit by 50 beds. In 2016, $28 billion, or 10.9% of the national budget, was allocated to the sector.
And the completion of this project will therefore result in the center being upgraded from an antenatal clinic to one that offers.
If we sow evil, we will reap evil. Thus, we create our own destiny through thought and action.
The event portrayed some nostalgic pieces, like this speech from the late President Desmond Hoyt during his address to the 4th Caribbean Pandits Council in 1987. It was read by advisor to the Ministry of Education, Vincent Alexander.
But we are all pursuing the goal of unity, both at the national level and within our wider region.
Renowned Guyanese poet Martin Carter was also remembered by Acting Chief Education Officer Marcel Raymond Hudson, who quoted some of Carter's deepest and most famous pieces.
It is the season of oppression, dark metal and the tears. It is the festival of guns, the carnival of misery. Everywhere the faces of men are strained and anxious.
Also attending and participating in the event was Education Minister Dr. Rupert Roopnarine and his junior colleague Dr. Nicolette Henry. More news from the Public Interest Show takes center stage. the Natasha Smith pregnancy issue and a pregnancy case within City Hall where a constable was relieved of her duty because she got pregnant on the job, President David Granger was asked where the government stood on these issues. Andrew Weeks reports.
Now that Natasha Smith is back on the job after the Ghana Press Association and other members of the media put pressure on National Communications Network for temporarily removing her from the anchor's chair because she was pregnant, Mr. Granger said his government has a maternal policy. He was asked the question on the Public Interest Show by Capital News reporter Ivor Wharton.
Yes, the question did arise. Of course, as I said, pregnancy is normal. And the Defense Force has a pregnancy policy, the Police Force has a pregnancy policy. And when the City Council matter arose, we proposed to the City Council that they apply the same policy. And now that the matter has gone to the NCN, we would make a recommendation that there is a generalized government policy. We didn't think it would have come to this because, as far as I'm concerned, NCN was quite out of place, out of order to have the person removed from the job that she was doing.
President Granger also stated that the maternal policy was for persons in uniform, but he will now see to it that this is applied in all government agencies.
But now, apparently, it's for anybody in state employ. But that is the direction we're moving in. But in general, I would say that it's a function that we recognize and we should reward pregnancy, and there should be no obstruction to women being allowed to perform their duties because they're pregnant. And that is the state policy.
Mr. Granger said no one should be punished or removed from their jobs because they are pregnant. This newscast has reliable information that there are many privately owned business places in the city and around the country which are terminating workers because of their pregnancy, because they do not want to pay maternal benefits to workers. One such business place we know is a popular supermarket on Sheriff Street who are terminating employment of pregnant workers, but they are providing mommy discount to pregnant customers. Meanwhile, Mr. Granger was asked if the NCN CEO, Mr. Cornett, should be sanctioned by Cabinet, a call which was made by the Ghana Press Association. President Granger also commented on the way the CEO handled a sports editor who was sent home because of her Facebook postings.
It is a matter within the Prime Minister's portfolio. I think there was an absence of compassion on the part of the administration. And we expect that in future, both in the case of the pregnant employee and the employee who's alleged to have made some comments on her Facebook, that there could be more reasonable, a more reasonable form of administration. I think it is inhumane to deprive an employee of her salary without due process. She hasn't committed a crime. It's not as though she's a murderer, and I think that it was inhumane to take away her salary or to suspend her from her job. I don't know that she's committed any crime at all. So there needs to be some instruction passed to the administration of state entities that this is not a power play. We're running an administration for the benefit of all the Guyanese people. It mustn't become a platform for one person to exercise absolute power.
Honey, what's dinner? I had a hard day.
I'm sorry you had a hard day, but guess what, babes? I didn't cook today because the stove is not working.
Having trouble at home or at the office? Then call the professionals at Action Cool. Our fully trained technical team have the skills and experience in repairs of all air-conditioned units, refrigerators, gas stoves, washing machines, and a whole lot more. For further information, visit us at 86 Hill and Princess Street, Mandela Avenue, Georgetown, or call us on telephone number 225-7867.
Ghana welcomes the visit of Commander General of U.S. Army Forces Southern Command, Major General Clarence Chin. This is his first official visit to Guyana and the Ghana Defense Force, GDF. Major General Chin is a 1981 graduate of the United States Military Academy at West Point and has served in a variety of command and staff positions in airborne, air assault, light infantry, and ranger units. In addition to a demonstration by 3-1 Ghana's Special Forces Unit, Major General Chin met with Brigadier Mark Phillips and discussed the strong bond between the Florida National Guard and the Ghana Defense Force, the role of women in the armed forces, the professionalization of the senior non-commissioned officer and warrant officer corps, and future activities between the two countries' forces. The Labour, Occupational Safety and Health Department today hosted a seminar for some city employers to sensitize them about the country's labour laws, their obligations, and employees' rights. Mrs. Radha Devi Takchandra Singh, a Labour Occupational Safety and Health Officer, explained to the employers that each worker must be allowed a period of leave with pay of no less than 1 day for each completed month of employment, according to the Act. For those employees working on a half-day basis, the half-day should be counted as a day in the computation of leave with pay. Employers are obligated to ensure that when workers are terminated, they are paid for annual leave owed to them up to the period of termination. They are also required to keep a leave with pay register, ensuring proper record keeping of all leave granted to employees. Employers were also cautioned against practices of unfair dismissal, which, according to the Termination of Employment and Severance Pay Act of 1997, constitutes dismissal based on an employee's race, sex, religion, color, ethnic origin, national extraction, social origin, political opinion, family responsibility, and marital status. Prohibitive grounds also include employee's age, except for retirement, pregnancy or a reason connected with an employee's pregnancy, and employee's absence due to sickness or injury certified by a registered medical practitioner or because of compulsory military service or other civic obligation in accordance with the law. Speaking about severance pay, Sultan said that on termination of employment, an employee who has completed a year or more of continuous employment with an employer is entitled to be paid severance or redundancy allowance. For those employees with 1 to 5 years of service, severance pay should be at least 1 week's wage for each completed year of service. Employees with 6 to 10 years of service should be paid at least 2 weeks' wages for each completed year of service. And that's Safetv 2 Headline News for this Thursday evening. As we take our leave, we invite you to find Safetv 2 Headline News on Facebook, YouTube, and safetvghana.com. You can also tune in at 6:30 tomorrow morning for rebroadcast and Friday evening at 6 o'clock for more news. For now, I'm Rihanna Ahmed signing out from Business Class. Do have a blessed evening.